It's Friday, October 18th, 2024, and Fridays are Ask or Tell Me Anything next on the AM Update. Thanks for coming along on another week on the AM Update. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hopefully you enjoyed this week as well. Just when I think each week, but man, it's been kind of a slow news week. Something like the Kamala Harris Fox News interview erupts, and we have things to talk about on the program. And of course, that's not going to change in the lead up to the election. And I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to the election or looking forward to it being over with. And let's start with that question. Cav Cavalier asks, will you be glad when the election is over? I sure will be. I've taken a hiatus from most conservative shows. It's just gotten insufferable with all the polling analysis, Kamala dunking, demanding we vote for Trump, etc. Most of them really just need to take a cold shower. I know I can speak for myself as well as others kind of on this side of the microphone that to some varying degrees, and this happens every single election, I'm ready for this to be over with. I am. And try to get outside of the echo chamber as much as possible. But this always happens if you're anywhere to the right of Bernie's. Wow, that's maybe a little bit of an exaggeration. Anywhere right of center, you get kind of tunnel vision when it comes to elections, especially presidential elections, and that's kind of inescapable to some degree. And so, Cav, it's not the worst thing ever to take a hiatus from listening to podcasts this time of the year if it just gets to be too much. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the election being over. I will look more forward to it if it means that Kamala, I should say, is not headed to the White House. But I am looking forward to it one way or another. I made the mistake last week of starting to talk through kind of Christmas end of year plans with Bella last week. That was a mistake because now, with the day job, we always bank up our vacation days to take them, or at least most of them, or a good chunk of them, towards the end of the year around Christmas. And now I'm really looking forward to having some time off with family then. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, I'm looking forward to that. Let's see, this is from Jim Stalker. What's your favorite episode of Haunted Cosmos? Since you recommended the podcast, I've been hooked. The latest episode about MK Ultra is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, and I've heard a few MK Ultra episodes, and that one is up there. I've also heard a few different renditions of the mystery of Dyatlov Pass in Soviet Russia. I thought their rendition of telling that story was the best. That's probably my favorite Haunted Cosmos episodes. But man, they have a lot of bangers. But the episode they did on the Dyatlov Pass in Russia, that was probably my favorite one. Let's go to Uncomfortably Dumb. Let's say a guy sees a worship team guy from his church with a Pride bumper sticker on his car. Guy confronts his pastor about it, and pastor knows about it but doesn't have an explanation why Pride guy is still on the worship team. Stay or go? Neither. I would run. Yeah, I would just run. Go. Yeah, leave that church. If your head pastor has nothing for you, as far as that's concerned, I would say that's probably a window to the soul. I mean, there's not even it's a used car and I couldn't get the bumper sticker off. That'd be a weak excuse, but there's no attempt at even obfuscating. That's a terrible sign. If your pastor doesn't even show, and maybe you didn't address this, but if your pastor doesn't even show interest or derision or any terms of concern about that, that's a big red flag. So maybe I would ask a few more questions, approach him again. I think you did the right thing to go to the worship pastor first and then to your other pastor second. That's probably the right way to go about it. But man, that's a major red flag to me. Let's go to this. This is from S.A. Cupcake. Could you please explain exactly what gossip is as a sin? Need some clarification, just trying to grow my Jesus muscle. Thank you. Well, the Bible doesn't actually provide a clear definition of what gossip is. There are several instances of gossip being invoked, or something akin to gossip being invoked. Most often in the Proverbs, you think of Proverbs 20:19, a gossip betrays confidence. Proverbs 11:12 and 13, a gossip betrays confidence, but a trustworthy man keeps his secret. Proverbs 16:28, a perverse man stirs up dissension. A gossip separates his close friends. Proverbs 18:7 and 8, a fool's mouth is his undoing, and his lips are a snare to his soul. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to a man's inmost parts. So I think a clear theme of just those verses, and gossiping is actually mentioned in the New Testament as well. You think of Romans chapter 1, gossips and slanders. That's invoked in Romans there too. So it's mentioned in the New Testament. But I think the underlying theme is the intent about talking of other people. That is the clear theme. And I think it can be broken down into kind of two definitions or two descriptions of what gossip actually is. I think if you read some of those passages in the Bible about gossip, the clear message is what is the intent behind them. If you're talking about the failures of others, and we are talking about the failures of others, bad news about other people, with the intent deep in your heart of hearts of tearing them down so you can feel better about yourself, or making yourself feel better just for a quick hit of dopamine, that's clearly gossip. You can share bad news about other people, even deep down in your heart of hearts, without the intent of tearing them down to make yourself feel better, and that's still gossip. Sharing bad news about other people without their knowledge, without their ability to answer for it, I think that fits into a definition of gossip as well. Basically, sharing bad news about other people behind their back. I think that counts as gossip. And that can be done with a clear conscience and a clear heart, or with a heart, even if you don't think it, but deep down, you're quietly and maybe beneath the surface trying to tear them down so you can feel better about themselves. That's kind of how I've thought about gossip. Country Squire says, what do you think about Make America Healthy Again, Casey and Callie Means, and their lack of acknowledgement of vaccine injuries? I don't know who Casey and Callie Means are. I think the name Callie Means sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. What do you think about Make America Healthy Again? I think, if Donald Trump wins and he appoints RFK Jr. to some position of actual power, either in the CDC or more likely in the FDA, that could have some major ramifications on this country in a positive way. It may also mean that things in terms of food and supplements, it may also mean that things get more expensive as well. But I think we need a major retooling of how the Food and Drug Administration operates. My understanding is that the FDA, their operating budget comes from the people that they're tasked with regulating. In what world does that make sense? How can you be impartial when the people who are paying your paycheck are the ones that you're regulating? That's impossible to remain impartial. So I think if RFK Jr., it's not, I don't think anything's going to go to the level really that we would like it to be in terms of, well, you mentioned vaccine injuries. I don't think we're ever going to get, at least not in the near distant future, we're not going to get the level of accountability and reform that there needs to be. But any turn down the right path, I think, would be good news. Grant Isaski asks, what Midwestern food do you love and what do you hate? So it's tough to define Midwestern food. And that comes from somebody, me, who lives in Iowa. I should be an expert at Midwestern food. But, I think there's actually one that comes to top of mind. I love a good pork chop. I really do. But there's this restaurant here in town called the Machine Shed. And it's not just here. I think there's 2 or 3 locations spread across Iowa. And it is typical Midwestern fare. It's comfort food. And a lot of it is fairly good. The last few times I've been to the Machine Shed, I've gone there for Saturday or Sunday brunch, and they have the all-you-can-eat, basically a breakfast buffet, and I love that, but it's not stuff that you could not find elsewhere around the country. But their signature dinner is the thick pork chop. And man, it just leaves a lot to be desired. My father-in-law just smoked pork chops one of the last times we were over there. Delicious. And they were thick, too. They're really good stuff. But these are just cooked, I think, just like in a skillet or something, and they're really not that good. So I think the pork chop, just by itself, is probably one of the most overrated Midwestern foods. I'd say an underrated food. And even though it's hard, it's kind of like Taco Bell, actually. We can all agree that Taco Bell is delicious and disgusting at the same time. This kind of fits into that mold, and that's the loose meat Made Right sandwich that you can get at Made Right locations, generally in Iowa. They tried to expand, I think, to other states a few years ago, actually more than a decade ago. I don't think that especially went well. I worked at Made Right when I was a teenager, and it's sloppy Joe without the slop, which if you're looking for something a little bit more sophisticated, it's disgusting. But if you're looking for something that's greasy and beefy and just goes down the hatch really, really easily, just some straight, because I can't eat bread. I've got celiac. I'm not one of those hippies that just avoids, gluten for the heck of it. I've actually got the autoimmune condition, so I can't eat it with the bun. So when I was a teenager, sometimes I would just eat some straight Made Right loose meat. It's just ground beef with season. It's just salt and pepper seasoning. I made probably hundreds of pounds of that stuff while I worked at Made Right. And so even though it's disgusting, I still think it's underrated, particularly if you're just really hungry for something nice and greasy. So disgusting, but underrated. All right. Let's end with this one. Dr. Griffin says, how do you handle Halloween, especially with your children? Dressing up, avoiding certain costumes, trick-or-treating, alternative events like trunk or treat or fall festivals, limiting candy types or amounts, bedtime. So here's what we are going to do. We don't in the Des Moines metro area, because some kid got kidnapped over a generation ago. We don't do trick-or-treating on Halloween night. Don't ask me why. I don't understand the details. We have Beggars Night, and I think it's typically the night before Halloween. So I never did trick-or-treating growing up. I don't really regret it. I don't think I missed out on anything. Even when I got older, and my parents probably would have allowed me, older as in like 12 or 13, and if I had asked, my parents might have let me go. I don't think I had any interest. I didn't have any interest back then of going. This year, we are going to take Ben out for probably 20 minutes just in our neighborhood. In the future, no costumes that are anything dark, demonic, depraved, anything like that. For instance, this year, he's dressing up as Mr. Potato Head. We even got him a bowler hat to dress up as. Yes, he will be getting candy. Will he be eating any of it? Probably not. Same thing. Probably same thing at the Independence Day parade. He was able to pick up a ton of candy. He maybe got to have a couple of things of it. We just really avoid candy when it comes to Ben and the rest of our kids. It's not good stuff. Along the lines of what I was talking about earlier with the FDA and our entire American diet needing to be cleaned up. So bedtime, probably going to be about the same, maybe a little bit later, 15, 20 minutes later, just because we're going to go in our own neighborhood here. So as far as limiting candy types or amounts, Ben's 3 years old. He really can't handle a ton of candy. So basically no candy. Bedtime, a little bit later. Costume, things that are redemptive. No, nothing dark, nothing like that. Trunk or treat, totally support that. We give candy to our church's trunk or treat event each year. Maybe someday we'll actually set up one of our trunks, but we would totally support that. So that's kind of where we come down on it. And so I'll take Ben out trick or treating. I'm not dressing up as anything. I probably won't in the future. Bella and Abby will stay back home and hand candy out to the visitors to our stoop, our doorstep. So that's kind of where we fall. So lots of great questions this morning. Appreciate each and every one of you for submitting those. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bella and I will be back tomorrow morning for No Suck Saturday. Looking forward to that. We'll have 5 stories that we think objectively don't suck. We're going to be doing something a little bit different this week for our main segment. We'll tell you about that for our Apple Podcast subscribers. That's tomorrow morning for No Suck Saturday. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. For everyone else, we'll be back at it again right here on Monday on the AM Update.